You know, I know the title is probably one of the most clickbait titles that you've seen, but I can rest assured you have never played this Castlevania game. I've never played this Castlevania game because it literally came out like a week or two ago. My name is Rico from Kelphelp, and thank you for watching the channel. Today we're going to be looking at Castlevania Resurrection, the long-lost demo that has never been released until 2 weeks ago. There's a lot of history to digest of this demo. There's a lot to dissect in terms of the gameplay, its story, and how it's affected future 3D Castlevania games. There's a lot that I've been wanting to talk about this one, and it's going to be a good one. If you just came in just to look at the gameplay, look at the timestamps down below, and you can see what starts for gameplay, and you can really start to see what we're going to be talking about. If you want to know a really deep dive of the history of the demo, I'm going to leave a beautiful link down below for the SegaInfoGamesPreservation.com website, a beautiful website that chronicles and lists everything about the game, and I will also list links so you guys can download the demo, play it on emulators, play it on official hardware, whatever you feel like doing. So what is Castlevania Resurrection? It was first announced in the summer of 1999 in a couple of magazines. This was more or less like a spiritual successor to Castlevania 64 and Legacy of Darkness. If you guys have played that 3D styled Castlevania game before Lament of Innocence, this was really Castlevania's first jump into the 3D space, and Castlevania 64 for a lot of people is a very hit or miss title. I've been actually playing it for the first time this week, and I've been absolutely loving it, except the Magical Nitro, because screw that shit. Development of Castlevania Resurrection was done in America. So since this title was on the Dreamcast, you guys know what is going to happen. Inevitably, any title that is on there either got ported to other consoles, or it just got flat out canceled. And that's the case for Castlevania Resurrection. It was just flat out canceled in 2000. And since then, we really haven't heard anything about this title after that. It was just completely done. Know if it was lost in history. If not, if you know more information, please let me know, because I would love to learn more about this as well. So let's skip all the way to April of 2021, where we first heard about this title being auctioned up by a collector, and I think it hit about $20,000 on eBay. The crazy thing is, we're going to go into the collector's dilemma, and this is the problem that a lot of people, myself included, have. And I'm going to be very strict about this. We want these titles to be preserved for future generations so that people can play these titles and learn more about the history and development of some games. Unfortunately, when it comes into the collector dilemma, meaning that there are collectors who want this and they just want a one-for-one piece that they cannot give to the world, that gives a problem. In the collector's mindset, this is a one-for-one demo that has never been released, but by dumping it and allowing others to play, you know, we can really more look into that, but it dilutes that, at least in the collector mindset. In the preservational mindset, we really just want to make sure that this title is being played by so many people and can be enjoyed by many amounts, and today's video is the product of that. So after that eBay sell, that seller actually took it off of eBay and listened to what a lot of people said. They were first going to make sure that they were going to get this game dumped and released to the public. It was officially dumped by Combi Laurent, which is a Dreamcast preservationalist. So it's thanks to him that he was able to dump this and for it to be played worldwide. Eventually after that, I'm pretty sure that the seller will be able to sell it, and whoever wants to get it up for grabs, 20,000, 30,000, that's up to you. So that is the history of Castlevania Resurrection. It's quite a bit to digest. It's a crazy history. But let's go into the story. What is the story about? We're going to be talking about Sonia Belmont. If you guys don't know, this is the same female protagonist that was in Castlevania Legends back in the Game Boy Advance. Yes, I do have a copy, and I've owned this copy for a very long time, and I love this game a lot. It takes place in the year 1996 and was supposed to be a prequel to the original events of Castlevania. While we don't really know too much of the story about that, we do assume that she was going to go take down Dracula like usual. I'm not really too sure about how the story was eventually fleshed out or what could have been, but this is, you know, the getup that we get for Castlevania. I will say this is kind of ironic and sad, considering that this is the second game with Sonia Belmont that is canonically not true. Castlevania Legends, also considered in the timeline, is not official, and the Resurrection was never released, so that's not official either. But that's all that we have to know about the story, but let's go into the gameplay. But before we do talk about this, you guys need to know. The game more or less is about 25% finished, meaning that you're going to see a lot of bugs, you're going to be seeing a lot of visual problems, a lot of hit detection. But even then, from what you see, it's still an incredible title nonetheless, and I think this is something that is a lot of fun to play. So the gameplay will be recorded on my Dreamcast using official hardware. When you first launch the disc and you play the game, you're already started with the Konami splash screen and then the title screen that says Castlevania Resurrection, and you're already booted and playing as Sonia Belmont. If you played Castlevania 64, then you're gonna kind of feel right at home. The controls are pretty similar, and you do have the camera's perspective that you can change very similarly to Castlevania 64. Gameplay is separated into 5 different sections, 4 of what can be explored, 1 that actually crashes the game, and I'll get into that in a second. So starting with the first level, you kind of go around just fighting different creatures, different ghouls and everything like that. You can tell that the hit detection with the whip is not really there. There isn't that much impact at all when you're using the whip, so she just kind of hits. But you notice a lot of the enemies here are pretty much sponges. In comparison to Castlevania 64, where you get a couple of hits on the enemy, this one you really need like 10, 11 per enemy, so they clearly haven't fixed this yet. Like mentioned, the camera perspective is very similar to Castlevania 64, so you have a seek and no seek perspective, similarly to 64 that has an action, battle view, and different perspective as well. Unfortunately, this is how these levels will be based. It's just a small area that you can explore, and that's about it. You can't really go through any doors. Whatever level you're in is kind of the level that you can explore, and that's kind of it actually. But if you press the start button, it allows you to go into the debug menu and pick 4 more levels. So from here you can really see the beauty of the game. You can see some wonderful textures and lighting, which is pretty incredible for the Dreamcast, and I will always say I love the way the Dreamcast looks, and even to this day it's still a very lovely looking console. However, if you do pick the level corridor, it's going to crash the game. On the actual disc of the Castlevania demo, it says loading up corridor will crash your game. That's exactly what happened when I did this on my Dreamcast as well. Frame rates are pretty inconsistent. It does start at a bit of a 30 FPS, but then really bogs down with maybe 1 or 2 enemies. Clearly the game has been optimized because they haven't really gotten that far into development, and I'm pretty sure if the game was supposed to be released in its final product, it was going to be well done. If there's any consolation, playing Castlevania 64 actually has a very steady frame rate with pretty low dips in some sections, so I'm pretty sure they would be able to follow up, and the Dreamcast can handle quite a bit, so I'm pretty sure they would be able to do that. Some of the levels as well do have a little bit of problems. So in the chapel level, jumping around, you're able to see various bugs, and I was able to just walk on the lava and not really jump back up. I had to press start, go back into chapel again, and play the level again. Also, I think it was in the castle level. I was trying to jump over the bridge, actually just fell into a crevice, and I was never able to get out. So like I'm saying, these things weren't added into the game, but I have a lot of leniency because this game is not finished. That's just how it is. It's a demo. It wasn't supposed to be released to the public. The funny thing about Castlevania Resurrection is that you can tell that there were inspiration from this Castlevania put on into Lament of Innocence and Curse of Darkness. Actually, if you see the way Lament of Innocence is laid out, it's pretty similarly to Castlevania 64 as well as Resurrection. And a lot of that was translated as well. Story is a big part as well. Considering that this was supposed to be a prequel to anything Castlevania, it was officially canonically the first Castlevania that really was the origin story of Dracula, Leon Belmont, and all of that as well.
Leon. まさかレオン・ベルモンド男爵か?
そうだ。レオン・ベルモンドだ。
Also, the camera system in Lament of Innocence is a lot better than in the 64 and Dreamcast, and the whip play and the gameplay is just so much more precise and intuitive and fluid as well. So not only that, it hits the 60 FPS mark, so you can really tell that there was some inspiration from Castlevania Resurrection on Lament of Innocence and future 3D Castlevania games. And those are my overall impressions of Castlevania Resurrection. Like I said, this is a game that wasn't really supposed to be released to the public, but to be able to play something like this is really incredible. The last thing we got was GoldenEye 64 on the Xbox, and I still can't believe we were able to play that, and now we're able to play a new Castlevania game. I adore the Castlevania series to death. Pretty much own almost all the US SAT, including this, so I do love this franchise to death. So what do you guys think? Are you interested in Castlevania Resurrection, or are you glad this never saw the light of day? Let me know in the comments down below, and let me know how you're going to be playing this, either emulator, on original hardware. I'm going to leave the links down below so you can download the game as well. Thank you so much for looking at the channel. If you guys can, like, subscribe, and comment. It really does help the channel, and it really does go a long way. And if you also want to find additional ways to support the channel, the join button really does help a lot. It gives you perks on the channel that allows you to use emotes as well as different perks as well. And it's all thanks to these guys on my right who really have joined and have been helping a lot. And if you guys are interested in watching other videos, I have them here on my left. You can see other videos that I've done and maybe recommend a one that you might be interested. Thank you guys so much. I hope that you enjoyed this little deep dive into Castlevania Resurrection. I'll see you soon. Take care.